This place is so much stranger than anybody ever tells you. It's this place called Acadia National Park. It's located in New England, but more specifically, it's right on the coast of Maine. And I'm positive that every single person that I talked to before visiting lied directly to my face. All they ever talk about is the lakeside sunsets and the incredible hikes, and the charming little town of Bar Harbor. It's so lovely and welcoming, but they always leave out the dark secret that those people are hiding. There's something seriously wrong with that place, and we had no idea how strange and evil it was until we got there. So a couple years ago, I got the coolest job opportunity, and I think you guys will be happy to hear who I got the opportunity from. I get a call from Sam and he asks me, dude, are you free in July? And I'm like, it kind of depends what you're offering right now, because I could be free if it's something sweet, but I'm definitely not free if it's something horrible. And Sam goes, oh, it's something sweet, and we're gonna make some money. And if you know anything about me, those are my two favorite things: good times with my friends and making some bread. So I encouraged Sam to tell me what this opportunity is. What is he hiding from me over this phone call? And he's like, dude, we are going to be photographers on a yacht. And I'm like, dude, I'm definitely not a photographer. I don't know anything about photos. And I'm like, what kind of yacht, dude? Like, what are you getting me into here? And he goes, no, not a yacht. It's a cruise ship. It's a cruise ship. And I'm like, okay, a cruise ship makes a little bit more sense, but I'm still not a photographer. This isn't adding up for me. He's like, dude, we don't have to be photographers, but I told them we were. And at that point, I realized that I actually don't have an option because Sam has already signed me up for this thing, not out of character. So I'm like, it sounds like I'm already going to this, considering you told them I was a photographer. And he's like, hear me out, dude. All we have to do is take pictures of rich people over the course of a couple weeks, and we get to go on a free vacation to all these different cities. This is sounding absolutely too good to be true to me. I don't even know what cities he's referring to yet, but free vacation while we're getting paid is like a dream come true. He tells me he's gonna send me a link. I just have to fill out this application, and we already have the job because it's through a friend of his. I check the dates that we have to work, and I am free. I don't really have anything booked up during that time. And I see the pay, and it's kind of irresistible. And then I see where we're going, and I'm like, I've never been there before. So I fill out this application. You know I trust my friend. He wouldn't sign me up for something so ridiculous. And a month passes, and I'm meeting up with Sam on the East Coast, walking onto this luxury cruise ship, looking around like, no way this is our job right now. We go through this slight training, and this is what it was, which is so ridiculous to me still. Our job was to run a photo booth, and basically we would move the photo booth around the ship wherever the events on the ship were going on, and if people didn't want to use the photo booth, we would walk around with two cameras snapping pictures of guests, and all of the guests had little wristbands that had a number on it, like a scan code. So if we took pictures of them, we would scan their code and it would go to like their guest profile. So if this luxury cruise guest wanted to purchase high quality photos of themselves while they were on this cruise, all they had to do was look up their profile and pay for them. And I know that sounds like a nice little side gig, but why is that so cool? The main reason is because we technically don't work for the cruise ship. We're not a crew member. This company hired this little photo booth company, so we're technically free guests. Our only responsibilities are to take photos of people while they're on the ship, but we have zero responsibilities when people are off the ship. So when we're docked, we get to leave too, which basically means we get to go to all of the locations that the guests do. I think it's very important that you know where we were going and what this cruise ship entailed. This wasn't a Carnival cruise ship. This was a luxury cruise ship. Not nearly as many people, not nearly as big, and the places that we were docking weren't your typical places that a cruise ship docks. Like, it didn't go to the Bahamas or the Caribbean. This was going up the east coast of New England. It went to like Boston, Portland, Bar Harbor, and then it skips into Canada, like to Nova Scotia. And because this was a luxury cruise ship, it would dock for much longer. You would have like a full, sometimes 48 hours at each dock, which basically meant we got to spend weekends in these cities. And all we had to do was be back on the cruise ship when everybody else was, in case there was a concert, a comedy show, or a special dinner that we had to shoot photos for. But we realized the first day that this was in fact the best job we've ever had, because we only had to shoot photos for like a couple hours here and there, and then we were on vacation. So these first couple weeks, I mean, they couldn't have gone better. We get up to Boston, we have a blast there. Me and Sam are having the time of our lives, and also the people that were on the cruise ship were very nice and tipped very well. So we had pocket change wherever we were going. Then we get up to Portland, very underrated city. We really liked it. Portland was a blast. We had to work that night, and then we were on the way to Bar Harbor. And Bar Harbor is this incredibly beautiful area in Maine. It's right on the coast, right on the Atlantic Ocean, and that entire area is like clusters of little islands. I'd never seen anything like it. That place has a very specific beauty. It's very green, it's very luscious. You could tell it deals with all of the seasons. The place just has character. And that portion of the country has character in general. The Northeast side, the Boston people, the Massachusetts people, Vermont, Maine, everything there feels as if it has rich history. And we were so excited to go there. So we work a long night, we dock in the morning, and we know that we get to get off this boat at 9 a.m. with all of these other luxury guests, and we get to go enjoy this beautiful coastal town for an entire day. The cruise ship doesn't leave for 24 hours, so if we want to stay overnight here, we can too. And me and Sam were feeling like little ballers because the people that were on this cruise ship were tipping like crazy. So we're like, we have money for a little motel. You trying to get 16 lobster rolls and stay overnight? The energy that we were bringing into this town was peak tourist energy. You know when you meet somebody that's making their way through your hometown and you're like, man, the way you're looking at the place that I live is giving me pride. Like seeing how much somebody else appreciates what you take for granted. It immediately makes the locals happy, and we're walking around this place in absolute awe because there's no scenario where we would be able to afford a trip like that. And now we have tip money in our pockets. We're in New England. There's clam chowder, there's fresh clams. We had never eaten like this, and we had never experienced a place so beautiful and so well kept. So we're chatting with everybody. We're being very nice. We're balling out from our perspective. And this one kid that's getting off shift at this local bar that we stopped into kind of catches our vibe. And he comes up to us with the same energy that we're bringing to this place. His energy's through the roof. And right away, I recognize that he's definitely not from here. This kid is a Southie straight from Boston, but he's the really funny kind, really energetic kind, obviously very Irish. He's that type of kid that walks up to you on his tippy toes, you know, when their calves flex with each step. And he's also right in my ear right when I meet him. His hand's on my shoulder, he's talking to me 2 inches from my face like we've been best friends for 10 years, and he introduces himself as Jack. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Sam and I like Jack. We hit it off right away, and you need to understand what kind of character Jack was. He was the type of dude that you could tell that he is not from here, he's from Boston, but it seems like he's here because he was running from something in Boston. And I don't want to make any crazy assumptions, but he seemed to me to be somebody with a checkered past, but such a good personality, and he had turned over a new leaf, so you don't hold it against him. He had scars on his face, he had scars on his hands. He seemed like a street fighting Boston guy who is definitely capable of a lot of bad things, but he's put all of that in his past. Everybody's met this type of guy. And the reason we liked him so much is because when you meet a dude that's that rough, it almost makes you feel special that he likes you. Because he's a dude that you would probably avoid. If you were walking past him at night, you'd be like, he might be looking for a fight. I don't really want those problems. So when he's being cheery and he's talking to you, it almost feels like you're being accepted by like a mountain lion. And you also don't want to dismiss him because he's still a mountain lion. So once he was attached to us, it seemed as if we couldn't shake him loose. Not that we wanted to shake him loose, but he had definitely attached himself to our little trip. And in the moment, we liked it. And he was showing us around to the best places. He was introducing us to a bunch of locals. And if anything, he was enhancing our trip. So anyway, Jack wanted to show us 2 specific places. We were walking to our next planned location, and he was walking alongside us, and when we told him where we were going, he turned towards me and he's like, that's not where you're going. And at that moment, it was the first time that I got a really good look at his face. Like I had seen his scars and stuff like that, but he was very hoppy and jumpy and turning and looking in every direction. He was very animated when he spoke, but this time he looked directly at me, and I was able to see the symmetry of his face. And this boy's nose took a hard right turn. This is straight up probably bar fight, plastered his nose on the other side of his face. But it gave him character. Honestly, it fit him. I just noticed it in that moment. But as quickly as I noticed it, he talked over my thoughts. And he goes, the first thing that we're doing is I'm taking you to get a real lobster roll. And me and Sam were both like, we literally just had a lobster roll. And he's like, okay, where did you go? And we told him the name of the place. He goes, that's not the best place in town. You're coming with me. And we thought this was kind of funny. So we were like, okay, and where are we going next, dude? And he's like, then I'm going to take you for the best blueberry pie that you've ever had in your life. The blueberry pie sounded good to us. And honestly, a secondary buttery lobster roll didn't sound too bad either. So we follow him up to this place, and it's this really cute, clearly family-owned business. He pops it open. He's saying what's up to everybody. He clearly knows everybody in this town. Everybody's saying what's up to him. He introduces us to everybody, announces to the place that we're visiting from that fancy cruise ship, because I think he assumes that we were guests on there and we didn't sneak on there with fake photography credentials. And we meet this entire family that runs this place together. It's a family-owned lobster roll place in Bar Harbor. Talk about a Hallmark card. They have the mom, the dad, the 2 older sisters, and then 2 younger brothers who are similar in age, not very similar in heights, but this family clearly loves each other to death. And they're running this place together. So we sit down, Jack is still talking to everybody, we get our lobster rolls, and he was totally right. They were so much better than the last ones that we had, which didn't really make sense. I didn't think you could make a lobster roll any better. But then it started getting weird, because it was very friendly. It was exciting. It was heartwarming, we were having a good time, but it was the first time we noticed something a little bit odd. Every single person in that family, as they came up to the table to see if we needed anything, asked Jack if he had told us about Bar Island. And the first 2 times, he was like, no, but I'm going to. A couple minutes pass, somebody comes up with a refill, they ask him again, and he's like, no, I'm going to. By the 4th family member asking him if he's gonna tell us about this place, and him kind of refusing to, I finish up my lobster roll and I'm like, are you gonna tell us about Bar Island? And he looked at me a little bit serious and he goes, I'm gonna tell you all about Bar Island, but let's go get blueberry pie first. So he covers our bill, which he absolutely didn't have to. We didn't even know this guy. And he pulled out one of those suspiciously big wads of cash, which also made my spidey senses tingle when I knew that he was probably fleeing Boston and he has a bunch of cash on him. I don't know, it's just a sign that somebody made a lot of money somewhere and went somewhere else with it. So we walk out of this place, we walk a couple blocks to the best blueberry pie we've ever had. He's not acting antsy or anything. It's not like his behavior changed, but he was withholding this one thing from us. And we're looking around, we're trying to still have a good time. Me and Sam are talking. He's walking ahead of us, leading the way, and he does the same thing when we get into this place. He opens the front door, we walk in. It's definitely family owned. It definitely smells like probably the best blueberry pie we've ever had, but this place is run by a couple. They were probably late 60s, early 70s, husband and wife that ran a bakery together. And it was the sweetest and most wholesome place that I'd ever been to. And Jack was damn right, that blueberry pie was fantastic. But it happened again. First the husband came up and he asked Jack if he had told us about Bar Island. And he said, no, but I'm going to right after we finish this pie. Now the anticipation is just rising and rising. Then the lovely wife comes over with a couple cups of coffee and cream. And I couldn't believe that she asked him the same thing. Jack, are you going to tell these young boys about Bar Island and how much it did for you? And I don't even have to ask the question this time, because Sam goes, I finished my pie. I think it's about time you tell me about Bar Island. And Jack kind of does one of those head shakes, takes 2 big scoops of his blueberry pie, but I could see on his face that he's about to start telling us about it once he finishes this big mouthful of blueberries. And I'm sitting there waiting, trying to understand why this Bar Island could be so special. And finally Jack says, still with blueberries all over his teeth and lips, you guys have to go to Bar Island before you leave. That place changed my life. I visited that place and I've never been the same. And we were like, okay, probably some good views, maybe a beautiful hike here and there. I don't know why every single person here is asking you if you had told us about it yet, but that explanation didn't really make sense to me. So I asked some follow-up questions and I'm like, why does everybody here ask you if you had told us about it? And then he starts to open up a little bit more and he's like, it's because they know what that place did to me. You see, up here, they didn't like me for a long time. I bet you guys can't tell, but I had a bit of a checkered past. I had a bit of a mean streak in my teens and 20s. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, dude, I could tell you had a mean streak. Like, look at your face, you're covered in scars, your teeth are chipped, your hands are covered in scars. Your nose is 2 inches to the right. Like, yes, it's very clear that you had a mean streak back in the day. But then he kept going and he's like, when I went to that place, it's like my life changed. Whoever I was back in Southie, I'm just not that person anymore. I moved up here full time, I left everything behind, and I'm never going back. I love my new life, and it's all because I visited Bar Island. And we could both tell that Jack was being completely sincere. He had some type of euphoric revelation when he visited Bar Island. Like, he didn't want to be an inner city thug anymore. He wanted to be up in Maine in this beautiful coastal town, eating lobster rolls and blueberry pie, being friendly to everybody. And we're like, man, that's a beautiful story. Like, we're really happy to hear you left the street life behind. And now it kind of made sense. Like, all of these people knew that he was pretty much a reformed criminal. And then he got a little bit serious. And he goes, you guys have to go before you leave. We had no idea where Bar Island was. Like, obviously we see a lot of islands off the coast here. We don't know which one is Bar Island. The only thing that we know is that our cruise ship leaves at like 9 a.m. the next morning. We don't have that much time here, so if it's far at all, we probably can't do it. And as we're giving him these objections, he is immediately like, no, you guys don't get it. It's like right there. And then we start telling him like, oh, if we have to take a ferry there, we don't really want to pay for a ferry. We're making excuses because this wasn't a part of our plan. Like, it's cool you had this euphoric revelation, but we don't have to turn over a new leaf. We're just trying to be in town. And we're definitely not equipped to go to some island if there's a hike, whatever it is, we don't feel ready for it. We also don't really want to attach our entire day to Jack. Like, it was fun to hang out with him for a couple hours. He was very hospitable, but at the end of the day, me and Sam just wanted to go around this place together. Eventually, we're going to have to cut him loose. Even if that meant lying, saying like, yeah, we got to get back to the cruise ship, pretending to go there and then coming back off. He was a great dude. He was very kind. He was very friendly. He was just a little bit much, but he's like, no, you don't get it. You could walk right there. And he looks at his watch and he's like, actually, within the next 30 minutes, you could get there. So we asked for a little bit more of an explanation because you said it was an island and now you're telling us we could walk to it. And he goes on to explain to us that when the tide is low, it opens up a path and you could walk from Bar Harbor to Bar Island. And it's only about a 20 to 30 minute walk once you get to the shore. And we're like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's a unique thing. Apparently everybody here knows about it. So Sam goes, oh, are you gonna come with us? And this is when we knew that we were going to Bar Island. Jack said, no, I don't go there anymore. The first time was so perfect. I don't want to ruin the way I view it. You guys need to experience it for yourselves. At that point, count me in. I'm sold. Jack, show me where the trail starts. He takes out his big wad of cash. He pays for the blueberry pie. Again, very grateful for that, but we were also kind of excited to get away from him. He walks us to where the trail starts and a bunch of other people are there getting ready to cross when the tide goes down too. Obviously, this place is a tourist attraction. And as the water starts to descend and the path gets wider, we start walking, we say our goodbyes to Jack, and we're headed to Bar Island. So we're standing at the edge of this path, ready to cross over to Bar Island, saying our goodbyes to Jack, and right before we leave, he simply says, just make sure you get back on the path before the tide closes in. You guys have a few hours, you're gonna be totally okay, but just don't miss it. He didn't make it seem like it was this big major issue, and he pointed to a sign right behind us that had the general times that the tide comes in and goes out. So we took a brief look at it as we started making our way across this water to Bar Island. It was probably a little bit over a half mile for us to get from the mainland to the island, and all the tourists were walking in a little spread out group. Some people were chatting, most people were keeping to themselves, and once we all got to the island, I realized why Jack was hyping it up so much. This place was absolutely gorgeous. Not that the views weren't amazing from Bar Harbor, but once you get offshore a little bit on this island, you get to see the full scope of the surroundings, and the place was stunning. Honestly, I could see how it changed Jack. The beauty was a perspective changer. And once we were on the island, we were very happy that we went. Our bellies were full. We didn't really want to poke around the harbor that much more. We wanted to stay out there for the majority of the day. There was plenty of places to hang out, there was so much to see, and there was this big loop trail that went around the entire island so you could take everything in. And our plan was to hang out for a few hours, just watch the water, chat, reminisce, maybe talk to some of the other tourists that are there, and then as time is winding down, do the loop trail one time and then head back. So all of the tourists that made their way to the island spread out. Everybody had their own itinerary. It was pretty lively there. It wasn't packed by any means, but you could feel that people were around. And we chose this really nice spot near the rocks right on the edge. And we were sitting there very close to a very sweet older lady with what seemed to be her grandson. We weren't chatting with them, but they were kind of like, oh, these are the people that are close to us. So if I had seen her later in town, I'd be like, oh, that's the grandmother with her grandson. They were close enough to us and I was people watching enough that I would have recognized who they were. So the day goes on and we're enjoying ourselves, and eventually we see some of the other tourists making their way back to the path. But we know in the back of our heads, we're like, we have about an hour left. We don't have to rush it. And it doesn't seem like everybody's hustling back. The grandmother isn't hustling back, so we think we're good. But we don't really want to risk it, so we're like, okay, let's get up soon and we'll do the loop path one time and we'll head out. And we'll have just enough time to make it back to Bar Harbor for dinner. And our cue is when the grandmother and her grandson got up and started doing the exact same thing. So we hop up at the same time, We give them a smile, and then we actually start to chat with them a little bit as we're walking around the big loop path. And the lady's very sweet. Her grandson, not very talkative. Kid honestly didn't say a word, but the grandmother said something very interesting. She was saying the exact same things that Jack was saying about this place, about how Bar Island changed her life. But I found it interesting that she was a repeat visitor when Jack never wanted to come back, so I was like, okay, so they're saying the same thing, but they have two different relationships with this place. And me and Sam had been talking just with each other for hours, so we're open to having another person in our conversation. And we were being kind and considerate and asking this woman about her life and where she's from, and we started to get to know her on this loop trail. She seemed nice enough, but her suggestions were a little bit out of the box. We were a little bit more than halfway done with the trail, ready to head back, and she made an interesting suggestion. She said, I think you guys should stay overnight. You guys gotta see the stars from out here. And of course, Sam and I are like, well, no, we're definitely not gonna stay the night out here. We don't have any camping gear. We're not from here. We're also still technically working. We have to be on that cruise ship in the morning. There's no chance we're staying out here. But she seemed persistent on the idea. Not that she was forcing it down our throats, but like really wishing that we would listen to her. And saying things that it'll change your life, that you'll never be the same if you stay overnight. And I don't know why her and Jack thought that that was like the best sales pitch there ever was, because I don't really like that, because I like who I am. I don't want to be different forever. I didn't show up here as a gangster from Southie. I don't have a checkered past that I'm trying to forget. So I'm not trying to stay overnight and be a different person by morning. Obviously, I'm not going to say that to this lovely older lady that just wants us to experience beautiful things while we're still in our youth. So we're just giving her minor pushbacks and being like, oh, we're working, we're being very polite about it. And eventually, she backs off the topic a bit. But it was enough for me to note to myself, these people really are obsessed with this place. So we move on to other topics and we start to split up a little bit. Sam and I start to walk a little bit faster and she's trailing a little bit far behind. We're not trying to go too far ahead just in case the tide starts coming in. We don't want her to panic. We want to make sure this older lady and her grandson are okay. So we're making sure we're still pretty close to them. They're in earshot of us. And as we're closing in on the last like 0.2 miles of this loop trail to get back to the path, to then get back to the main island, I hear something from behind us. It's not a monster, it's nothing crazy, it's not this horrific scream. I hear like a light, uncomfortable squeal. And I turn around and I see this older woman kind of swatting the air around her. And she's getting off balance a little bit, and I see something buzzing around her head. I'm like, okay, she's trying to smack away an insect. And then I see the insect land on her. She puts her hand on top of it, and instead of like hitting the insect off, she grabs it and squeezes it. And then like throws it on the ground. And in that millisecond, I thought, that's an interesting way to kill an insect that's on you. Like, I wouldn't want to grab a bug and squeeze it in my hand. I would want to hit it and swat it so it's touching me for the shortest amount of time. But after she killed this thing, she stood there looking at her hand, and then she looked up at us, and she had pure panic in her face. And then she held her palm up to us, and she said, I'm allergic. And we could see a welt growing on the middle of her palm. And we both knew right away that this woman is allergic to bees, and we're on an island a mile away from any form of help, and the tide is closing in. So this turned from a scenic, beautiful, calm hangout to this elderly woman is in legitimate trouble, and I could tell that she's scared. So we run up to her and we're like, okay, how allergic are you? Because there's different levels of allergies. Is it gonna swell up? Are we worried about your arm? Are we worried about your throat closing? Are you about to start passing out? Are you gonna break out in hives? You have to tell us a little bit more details. But she's patting down her jacket and her pants, searching for something. And then she looks towards her grandson and she says like, sweetie, where's my bag? Where did you put the bag? My EpiPen, my EpiPen. And we're looking at the kid like, dude, where did you put the bag? And the kid's not saying a word. He's clearly scared. He wasn't talkative in the first place. He's just kind of shrugging. And then the woman says, did you leave it where we were sitting? Which was completely on the other side of the island. And he nods his head yes. So here we are on Bar Island with a woman having a severe allergic reaction, telling us that she has 5 minutes before this gets really bad. And Sam and I have to make a very important decision. Do I go? Does he go? Or do we both go? And I know you would think, well, one of you would stay with the lady just in case she passes out, but we didn't know where the bag was and the little kid wasn't fast enough to go get it and come back. He also seemed to be in shock by himself. He started crying and he sat down. And when he sat down, I was like, that's actually kind of a good idea. I had the older woman sit down because I don't want her to randomly pass out and hit her head. So I'm like, okay, get as close to the ground as you possibly can. I remember where you were sitting because you were right by us when we were looking over the beautiful water. And Sam and I decide that we should both go because we don't know exactly where they put the bag. Because if one of us goes, we don't have the best memories. I don't know exactly where they were sitting. I don't know exactly where this kid put it down. I could be searching for the bag too long. So if we both go, we have two eyes on the ground, we could find the bag sooner. We're gonna run back in the same amount of time anyway. And if one person stays with her, there's nothing really that they could do without the EpiPen. So it was better for both of us to go and for them to stay put and her to lay on the ground. So we take off sprinting down this path on an island that we're not very familiar with, trying our best to remember exactly what rocks we sat on in the right section. And luckily, we had a decent idea just based on which ones were like jagged. We chose ones that were pretty flat, and we kind of remembered the landscape in front of us. So now we're looking over the general area off to the right from where we were sitting because we're like, we know that they were there, and we're searching and we're searching and we're searching. And finally we see a little handle sticking out from in between two rocks. It's just a little blue handle. I reach in and I pull it out, and I don't really know if it's this lady's bag. I just know it's a bag. And I hold it up to Sam and I'm like, dude, is this it? Because if we run back and it's not it, we have a problem. And he goes, that's the one, because the color matches her jacket. That was enough for me. We had the right bag and we start sprinting back. I didn't really know how long we had been looking for the bag, but it was definitely more than 10 minutes. And by the time we were sprinting back, we were fairly tired. I think we ran a mile to get to where we were sitting, and we had to run a mile back. And it's not like we jogged a nice pace like a 10-minute mile. We sprinted the first one, and then we were frantically searching for 10 minutes. So the mile on the way back, I'm saying we're pushing 12 minutes. So 6 minutes, 12 minutes, plus the 10 minutes searching. It's been over 20 minutes. And we're running and we're running and we're turning the corner to where we left her laying. We turn this corner, she's not there. And I'm looking for the kid's t-shirt, I'm looking for her jacket that she was wearing. I don't see them anywhere. So we both think they panicked because we were gone too long and they probably tried to get back to shore. So we keep running down the trail to get up to the path that we have to take back to the mainland because maybe they're in the middle, maybe she's collapsed. We have the EpiPen, we just gotta poke her with it and then she's gonna be okay. But as we're leaving the trail that's like covered by trees and we're able to see the water and where the path is back to the main shore, we don't see these two anywhere. So we're standing there with this woman's bag, absolutely exhausted, on the edge of this island as the tide is closing in on the path. And there's about 2 feet of path left because the tide is consuming it. And I'm trying to look across. I have horrible eyesight, but I'm trying to see all the way over and I feel like I see a little tic-tac of the yellow t-shirt that the kid was wearing. And I'm conflicted because if that is him, they got back to shore and at least she's gonna have some help. But they left us here. And as I'm looking at what's left of this path, it's as if the water consumed it in one swoop, like it was showing me, you're stuck. And as both sides of the water clapped against each other, completely eliminating our only way back to the harbor, it was as if all of the sounds of the island went silent. And we're standing there realizing what situation we're in. We have to be on this island overnight now, and there's nothing that we could do about it. And in the back of my head, I thought, was that intentional? Because she was telling us how badly she wanted us to stay overnight so we could see how life-changing it was. But why would she purposely sting herself? Why would she put herself in a life or death situation so we could stargaze at her favorite island? So I had to look into that bag. And as I'm rummaging through this woman's belongings, I realized that this is probably her bag, but there is absolutely no EpiPen. So whoever that woman was sent us on a wild goose chase purposely so we would miss the tide and we would have to stay here overnight. And the first thing that we think about, Sam brings it up first. He goes, remember the sign that we saw on the way in? Do you remember what it said on the bottom? And I kind of remembered. It said something along the lines of, if you miss the tide, call a water taxi, here's the phone number. So we knew there was a possibility for somebody to come get us. Like, yeah, were we gonna have to pay a little bit of cash? Sure, but we don't have to stay here overnight by ourselves on a silent island. And if there was a sign on that end, there's most definitely a sign on this end. Because why would they have the sign talking about like emergency help on the side that you're not stuck on? So we just do a quick glance around and I see a sign that's the exact same shape as the one on the other side. So we do a quick speed walk to it and the back of the sign is facing us. So we have to loop around it. And when we see the front of the sign, we know it's a setup because this sign was shaped the exact same way. The color was the same, it was a large yellow sign and it had black lettering, but there were no black letters on this one. It was completely barren of any information. And it's not like the sea wind kind of wore it down and we had to like squint our eyes and make out what was on the sign. The thing was clear, as if somebody painted over it. So if someone got stuck here, they would have no resource to call to get back. And as we're both blankly staring at this thing, almost not accepting our reality, it was as if the sound on the island turned back on and we started to hear people. And it was initially a jump scare, and Sam and I look at each other and we're like, we watched everyone leave. And this island is not very big, so it's not like there's any homes here and people are coming out of them. And it's not like we only heard one person approaching. It was like when you're walking around a neighborhood on a holiday. You know, like just walking around your local neighborhood on 4th of July and you hear barbecues and hangouts in every backyard. There's multiple conversations popping up, people interacting, people laughing, walking around, things getting moved around. It was happening all around us. So it was like instantaneously, we went from being completely alone and stranded to surrounded by people. And people started coming out of the woods, leaving the trail, setting up shop right on the coasts. One guy even had a telescope and was stargazing. So initially we're like, okay, we're gonna be fine. Somebody here must have the phone number. We'll just get help from somebody here. But in the back of my head, I was like, where did these people come from? Do people bring their own boats to the other side? And is there a dock on the other side of this island? Like, I didn't see it. How did it go from completely barren to people everywhere? I didn't see boats approaching. But even though I had those skepticisms, people being here felt better than people not being here. And we're watching all of these people set up shop in different areas and we're like, okay, who should we go talk to? And then we hear a familiar voice, a very playful voice, shouting over to people, talking, saying what's up. And then we see that person exit the woods and it's our boy Jack. And he's stomping around this place like he owns it, exactly like he was doing it at Bar Harbor earlier that day. He's shaking hands, he's kissing babies, saying what's up to everybody with that same bravado that he had. And we're like, okay, this is kind of perfect. So we call over to him, yo Jack, we're here, you told us to come here, why are you here? At least that was the question that I wanted to ask him as he was walking over. But he had some questions first. We called his name. He's squinting at us, looking at us because it's pretty dark at that point. He's walking over. He's bouncing because he walks with his calves. And as he gets close to us, he asks a question that doesn't make sense to me. It wasn't even a question. He said, remind me your name. And I'm looking at him in the face and there's something off with it. And I'm trying to recognize what is off here. There's something different about his face, but I can't put a finger on it. But the weirder part was that he asked me to remind him what my name was. And I'm not saying it's weird because we had met earlier, like I understand, names go in and out of my ears, but he wasn't that type of guy. I told him my name earlier and he used my name in every single sentence that he said to me the entire day. You know those types of people, you're like, hey, my name's Doug, and they're like, let me tell you something, Doug. We have the best lobster rolls in all of Maine, Doug. Like every single sentence is your name. So there's no way he didn't remember it. And he did the same thing to Sam. And that made it even weirder because when Sam had introduced himself earlier that day, he said, my best friend back home is named Sam too. So he had a connection to Sam's name, but for some reason he didn't remember either of them. And I could tell that he used that tactic like, hey, remind me your name, pretending as if he did know who we were, but it just slipped his mind. But he thinks highly of us. Because I'll do that if I'm trying to be polite. If I'm like, damn, I was not listening earlier. Remind me your name again. It's a really nice tactic to be kind and friendly, even though you were totally spaced out earlier. Like, you don't want to make people feel bad, but I saw right through it. He didn't recognize us. And I especially knew he didn't recognize us when he's like, hey, follow me, let me introduce you to people. And he's doing the exact same thing that he was doing earlier. There were more locals here than there were tourists earlier. And he's introducing us to some of the same people that he introduced us earlier that day. It was like deja vu in an alternate reality across this small body of water. But the only thing that was different was the interactions had an undertone of threats. When we were at Bar Harbor, he was so kind and so generous, and he was taking out a wad of money and he was handing it out. He was paying for food, he was giving big tips, he was being so kind and generous. But as we were making our rounds to all of these people on this island, it was as if it was in reverse. It was as if these people owed him money, and he didn't have to say much, but as he got close to groups, they would do smiles and laughs and pretend that they weren't uncomfortable, but they were handing this dude money. He was going around this island collecting. And I started to think, so you come here at night and you collect the money, and you pretend to be a nice guy during the day on Bar Harbor. This dude's a real crook. And I'm thinking he's walking us around, and he told us to come out here because he thinks he's gonna rob us. So we start getting more and more defensive, like this was a total setup by this crooked Boston dude. And even though some of the faces around were a little bit familiar, we didn't have long conversations with most of the people in town, but we did have a long conversation with the old couple at the bakery, and Jack is walking us up to them. He's collecting a little bit of money from a group that's off to the right, and we're standing about 15 feet away from this lovely couple with the amazing blueberry pie. But there's something off about them. They were so kind and so sweet, so madly in love in their little bakery, but we're watching them interact in a completely different way. It was as if they were resentful of each other, and there was like little passive-aggressive comments. I don't remember exact sentences, but it was as if they were verbally assaulting each other, and it was building and building. They weren't making it obvious. It's not like they were like yelling and screaming, but you could see that an altercation between them was brewing. So we have Jack in our right ear talking to all of these people, and I'm trying to use my left ear to listen to them. But it seemed as if the older woman said something that crossed the line, because her husband, who seemed to be the sweetest man that loved owning a bakery with his wife, was actually horribly abusive. And Sam and I were shocked when we watched him hit her. We couldn't believe it, and we're looking around to everybody else like, did you see that? Did you see this man hit his wife in front of all of these people? And it looks as if this is supposed to be a fun gathering for everybody, and he's just doing this in public. And we look to Jack because clearly Jack is in charge around here, and we're like, hey dude, these are your people, this is your community, clearly they owe you a little something. What are you gonna do about that? It's not our place. There's no police officers here, but you seem to have some pull in the neighborhood. Probably don't let this happen. And he sees our looks, he looks at us, he looks at them, and he's like smiling and nodding his head. And all of the other people around him are completely unbothered by this domestic abuse that's happening. And he calls over to us and he says, oh, you want me to do something about that? You guys want me to put an end to that? You guys don't like to see stuff like that, right? Not on this island. And I look at Sam and he has the same look on his face that's on my face. We don't understand Jack's energy. He's like hopping on his toes and like, yeah, you guys want me to stop that? And he's walking over to this elderly couple as if he's happy about what happened. And in a split second, our reality shattered, because this little jacked Irish kid from Boston hits this elderly man right on the chin as if he was trying to kill him. And if the punch that he threw didn't kill him, the way that that man hit his head on the jagged rock behind him definitely killed him. And Jack turned towards us with his hands open, and he said, that's what you wanted, right? You guys don't like to see stuff like that, huh? And everybody around, including the man's wife, was acting giddy, and they went back to doing what they were doing. It's not like they were laughing maniacally, but there was like a light grin to all of them, as if what just happened was completely normal and they were going back to whatever they were doing. And in that moment, Sam and I both knew that we were in serious danger. There was something wrong with Jack. There was something wrong with this place and the control that Jack had over this place. Everybody turned a blind eye to what just happened. And we knew that if he had tricked us into coming here to potentially rob us, whatever his plans were, no one was going to help us. He was going to be able to do whatever he wanted to us here. And who knows who was on his side. And I feel some knuckles in the side of my ribs as Sam is saying, run. That was my favorite word that I had ever heard, because whatever was happening here, I wanted nothing to do with it. And we turn around and we take off running towards the trail that we were on earlier that day. We don't really know who to trust, we don't know who to go to, we don't know who to call, but the only thing that we know is that we want to be as far away from Jack as we possibly can. And when we were running away, I looked back a few times. He wasn't following us, but that was almost scarier. He still had his arms open and he was laughing and really into what he just did, but it didn't seem like he was worried about us escaping, because not only did we not have a phone to call for a water taxi, but this island was very small and we really couldn't go far. There were no signs that Jack had any weapons, and I was pretty confident that Sam and I together, I think we got that, but it doesn't change the fact that we don't know these people, and the confidence that he was exuding didn't make me feel any more comfortable about the situation. So we're on this loop trail trying to see if there's people that we recognize. There's some people, some townies, but nobody that we had any rapport with, until finally, as we're walking down the trail, a family emerges from the tree line, and they're holding like beach camping gear. It's a father, a mother, and 2 daughters, and we realize that it's the family from the lobster roll place. We stopped them immediately. They were so nice, so kind. We really got along with them, and we're like, hey guys, something is happening. We don't think you guys are safe. How do we get back to the mainland? And they look at us like they're a little bit concerned. And they're like, what are you guys talking about? Like, we come out here every night. Like, you guys should be good. It's always safe here. Like, they're very comfortable in their hometown. And we're like, Jack just did something horrible. Like, we need help. And they started laughing and they said, Jack's always up to things like that, completely downplaying what we had just seen. And as we're looking at the parents so confused, trying to explain to them, like, we are rambling at this point. Like, you guys are not understanding us. It is not safe here. Their 2 daughters are behind them bickering in a very similar fashion to the older couple. Not screaming, not yelling, but undertones of resentment. And they start bickering a little bit more. And one of them pulls the other's hair. And they start to get like in a little bit of a cat fight. And I see on the dad's face that what they're doing is really annoying him. And he takes a deep breath and he says, girls, you know how we handle things in this family. And Sam and I both take a full step back because something about what they're doing is very familiar. The father reaches down and picks up a large stick on the ground. He snaps it off of his knee and he starts inspecting the shattered side of each stick. And he's turning them and twisting them. And the one in his right hand is significantly sharper than the one in his left. And he looks at his 2 daughters and he drops the jagged stick in between them and looks at his wife and says, who are you putting money on? I think Danielle's got this one. And immediately these 2 daughters go from looking at their father to looking at the stick on the ground and fighting over it, as if they're about to use that stick to impale one another, as if that is the weapon that is going to solve this issue. And they are fighting violently. And we take a whole nother step back, and the only thing that I could say is, what is going on here? And the mother looked at me right in the face and she said, you'll learn to love it. We started running the moment one of the daughters got the stick to herself and started winning. And the parents had no issues with what she was doing to her sister, but we couldn't sit around and watch that happen. But this island was so small. We started to hit the corner of the loop trail, close to where the path usually is, but we didn't want to go all the way onto shore because Jack would be able to find us very easily. So we're hiding in some bushes on this mini island as people are walking around us. It's not like we were completely isolated. There's people walking within 10, 15 feet of us, and we're just trying to conceal ourselves. But there's really nowhere we can go. So we're sitting in these bushes looking around like scared dogs, and 2 people come walking around behind us. They're not sneaking up, they're not trying to attack us, they're just walking where they're walking. And we whip our heads around, terrified at whoever this is going to be, and it's 2 young boys. And we immediately start pleading with them to hide because these are the sons of that exact same family. Like I said, one was a little bit taller than the other one, maybe 2 years older, but this was an older brother and a younger brother. And the older brother has a big bottle of alcohol in his left hand and what seemed to be a bike tire in his right hand. And the little brother was just playing with a lighter, and we're begging and pleading for them to hide, to not go by their parents, and for some reason explaining to these young kids what we had just seen and the trouble that we're in, and they're just not comprehending it. To them, they're just on a little trip to the island near their house. They don't care. They're having a good time. And I'm on my 5th sentence pleading with this little kid, and he finally goes, "Can you stop it?" And Sam tries to talk to try to get through to him, and the little kid looks at Sam and goes, "No, really, shut up." And what else are we supposed to do in that moment other than shut up? because clearly this little kid has something to say. And the older brother goes, "You guys are overreacting." And the little brother goes, "Yeah, they can't even hurt you till the tide opens up." And I don't know if I said it or Sam said it, but one of us said, "What do you mean by that? Did they strand us here on purpose? Is this some type of weird initiation ritual and they can't do whatever they're doing to us until we go through a full tide cycle? Like, what are you talking about?" But clearly the older brother didn't like what the little brother said. It was one of those moments like the older brother scolding his younger sibling like, "You said too much. You're such an idiot." And he takes the tire that's in his right hand and he loops it around his little brother, kind of like a hula hoop. But then he turns the tire so it tightens around his little brother. It didn't have any spokes or anything like that. It was just the tire. If you turn it, it's kind of like a vice. So he has his little brother confined in this twisted tire, and he pours the liquor over his head, like the entire bottle, what was left of the bottle. And me and Sam are kneeling and hiding in these bushes, watching this older brother abuse his little brother for telling us some rule of this island. And everything changed in that moment, because random violence and sadistic parenting is much different than torture. Because the older brother snatched the lighter out of his little brother's hand and lit the alcohol-covered tire on fire, and his little brother bursted into flames from the chest up. And this kid was laughing as his little brother was running around like a chicken with its head cut off. But in this case, the chicken's head is on fire. At this point, the only option was swim. We sprint towards the water. We get to the edge of the island and we're about to jump in and attempt to swim back, but the water was different. If we attempted to swim back, it was a death sentence. The tide was high, the waves were crashing, the rocks were jagged. I don't even think we would be able to get out far enough. I think the waves would pummel us back and we would just get into a perpetual cycle of clattering off of these rocks on this shore. So we had to think of something else. We're still surrounded by people, not directly on top of us, but people just walking in the distance in groups. And we have to come up with a way to get out of here, when in the distance we could see little things unfolding. They weren't just doing it for us. Whatever was happening here was hyper violent. Whatever event this was, why the people were here, it seemed to have something to do with this. Like there was no laws, like it was a green light to treat humans however you want, with no consequences. And we're trying to figure out what to do. I'm looking over Sam's shoulder, he's looking over mine. We can't seem to get a coherent thought together until Sam says, "The picture you took with Jack, check your camera roll." And I have no idea why he's telling me to do that. I don't want to look at my phone. I want to look at the sadistic people approaching us, but he forces me to take it out, and I open the album and I see our saving grace. Over our shoulders, slightly in the distance, I see the sign. Jack had made us take a farewell photo with him, and I guess he didn't plan ahead well, because the sign with the phone number to the water taxi was in the background. So I zoom all the way in on it and I see the phone number. I type it in as quickly as I can. Somebody answers after about the third ring, and I'm screaming, "Something horrible is happening here. You have to come get us. We're on Bar Island." And the person on the other line says 10 minutes and hangs up. But now we are stuck here for 10 more minutes, and there's nothing that we could do but stand on this shoreline. And Jack is walking over to us, tiptoeing his way. And there's nothing that we could do other than attempt to keep the situation de-escalated. He's clearly capable of hyper-violence. Everybody here is, but we don't want it to get there. We don't know these people. And it seems as if Jack is playing a sick game, because he walks up to us and he's talking like nothing happened. What he's talking about is how much he likes this place, how it changed his life. He's talking about Bar Island the exact same way that he was talking about it earlier that day, and we just go along with it, because he's not trying to hit one of us, he's not calling any other people over, he's just trying to convince us to stay, saying things like, "You'll learn to love it." And we don't want to give him any pushback, and he's bringing up what we saw earlier. He's like, "You guys didn't like that? You didn't like that yet? Well, you're here all night, so you better learn to enjoy the show." And he's swaying back and forth and hopping up on his tippy toes, and he's smiling and laughing and slapping our shoulders like we're buddy-buddy. And Sam and I are staring at him like he is a stick of dynamite that could be ignited by any word. And we're going along with it, and we're laughing, and we're asking him about his favorite parts of the island, and we're trying our best to milk this 10 minutes. Finally, I see a little glint to the right of us, and it's the water taxi approaching. The second I could hear the engine and I see that it's within 20 yards of us, I grab Sam by the center of his shirt and I jump into the water and I bring him with me. And Jack is just laughing at us because the water was as intense as I anticipated. But I knew that we couldn't have this water taxi dock. We had to get into the water and we had to climb into that boat because if it got to shore, something bad was gonna happen. So we're getting slammed around by the waves, but the water taxi is getting close enough. The person operating the taxi throws a ladder into the water because clearly we need to be saved. He pulls the boat up next to us and we're desperately trying to get to it. And I finally get my hand on the bottom of the ladder and I could feel Sam gripping on the bottom of my pants. So I'm like, okay, we're both attached to the ship. And I start climbing myself up. I reach back, I grab his sleeve, and I get his hand on the bottom of the ladder, so I know he's safe, and I climb up. I fall dead weight into this boat, because even that 2 minutes in the water was hyper exhausting. I don't even move when I get into the boat. I feel Sam slam on top of me, and we're laying there like a sack of potatoes soaking wet, and the only thing that we could do is shout to the water taxi operator to turn around and go back. And we're just saying it's not safe, we need to go now. And I start to sit up and I'm saying go, 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 and they're listening. They whip this water taxi around and they pump it to full speed, and before you know it, we're 100 yards away from this island and we're safe. We got away. And then the person that's driving the water taxi asks us, why are you guys freaking out? And what he said didn't scare me, it's how he said it, because I knew his voice. And this man turns around and says, you guys got me out of bed at 3 a.m. I told you that the tides closed the path. And I'm looking at Jack, and I realize in that moment what was wrong with his face on the island. The Jack that I was looking at, his nose was broken to the right. Whoever was on that island, the nose was broken to the left. And as I'm realizing this, I have to look back, and in the far distance, I see who we thought was Jack on that shore. And then I see 2 dots, which are basically the size of Tic Tacs at that point. I look down at my shirt and I look at Sam's shirt, and the color looks damn similar to the 2 people that are standing by Jack on that shore. And that night, Bar Island changed our life. Like and subscribe. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode, because that was very hard for me. I am sick as a dog. I'm sure you could hear it in my voice. I got my tea and I got my lozenges to get through this. So if you liked the story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't like the story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I still got an upload out for you when I am running a fever and my throat feels like razor blades. I really love you guys. I didn't want to miss an upload. Hopefully I told the story well. I can't go a Thursday without telling you guys a story. So please make this dreadful recording session worth it. I really love you guys. If this is your first time on the channel, this channel was meant to binge from start to finish. So start with the oldest video and catch up all the way to the newest video. And I like to say this every week. We go live at 7 p.m. on Thursdays before we upload the new episodes. We give away a ton of free merchandise and we have a good time doing it. So if you're new here and if you've ever had any questions for me, please come to the lives, because that's the best way to do it. Comments are fantastic, but coming to the lives and talking straight to the source is always the most fun. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next week. And if you like this video, I would like to personally recommend this one.